to another amazing Imagine 2022 event. And all of these are sponsored by the President's Office, Career Services, and the Oswego Alumni Association. My name is Jaylee Ransom, and I'm a senior studying communication. I'm going to be facilitating this session today, but career coach Mary is also here and will help with monitoring the chat. We want to thank you for joining us for Mindful Monday, Savoring What's Good, and we are very excited for what Mary Kate has to share with us. But before I introduce Mary Kate and we get started, there are a few housekeeping items. We want to let you know that today's event is being recorded and will be posted on the Imagine 2022 website, so you can dive back in or you can share with friends who aren't able to attend. We also ask that you please keep your microphone muted when you aren't speaking so we can avoid disruptions during the presentation. But you are always welcome to use the chat throughout, and we will keep monitoring it. And if you haven't already, please fill out the Imagine 2022 interest form and check out the events on the Imagine 2022 website so you don't miss out on any of the amazing sessions this month. Thank you, Mary, for putting the link in the chat. And without further delay, I'm excited to introduce our presenter. Mary Kate Schutt graduated from Oswego in December of 2017 with a BA in Human Development and a Health Science minor. As an undergraduate student, Mary Kate's passion for mental health and well-being led her to becoming a peer educator and Zumba instructor at the campus fitness centers. She created the peer education Ask the Sexperts program that still runs today. Mary Kate also currently works at the Flourishing Center as a curriculum connoisseur, where she creates and updates positive psychology curriculum and assists in Flourishing Center programs. She also owns a positive psychology-based coaching and training business. And with all of that being said, you can take it away, Mary Kate.
Thanks, Jaylee. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. If you're able to turn off your video so I can see your beautiful face, that would be much appreciated. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name? Is it Kiara?
Yeah.
Kiara, okay. Hi, Michael. Christine, if you are able to, I'd really appreciate it if you could turn on your video just so we can have some virtual face-to-face interaction today. I'm so pleased that you're joining me this afternoon. Like Jaylee said, my name is Mary Kate Schutt. I am an SUNY Oswego alum, very grateful for my time at Oswego because it led me to actually however many years later being here with you with my knowledge of positive psychology, my program and facilitation experience. So today we're talking about savoring as part of the Mindful Monday series, and I'll relate this all to mindfulness and self-care. Because we're a small group, I have a small slide deck prepared, so I might be jumping onto the slide deck and then just facilitating a group discussion amongst the six of us here. But to get started, I am going to share my screen and see if you can hear me better now. I'll share my screen and sorry, not my computer background, and that gives me agita. There we go. The messy background gives me agita. Okay. Assuming you can all see that, yeah, cool. I'll review that in a minute. Before we get started, I want to. No worries, Christine. I appreciate you saying that. I wanted to talk about. Sorry, guys. The game plan for today. So thinking in the short time we have, we can just get on the same page of what mindfulness is. And even if you want to substitute out mindfulness for another word, that's fine too. But just, I know it's a buzzword, especially in the higher education area. So getting on the same page of what mindfulness is, what it isn't, and then going right into savoring. I'll cover what savoring is, the magic of savoring, how to do it, and then of course we will do it together. I'll leave time for comments or questions, and of course if you have a comment or question, I would prefer that you just unmute yourself and yell at me because I'll be able to catch it better than looking in the chat box. So please don't be shy. I would rather have this be a conversation amongst the group than me just talking at you for the next 30 minutes, so please keep that in mind. My background, in this picture, I'm actually savoring the size of that lemon. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a Mayer lemon before, but they're freaking huge. And so I was actually in awe at the size of that thing. And someone took a picture of me. So that's an example of me savoring, which I'll get into it a little bit later. Like Jaylee said, I have a BA in Human Development from the great SUNY Oswego. And then I found positive psychology and dove headfirst into it. So I have several certifications from the Flourishing Center, which is a place where I work. The Flourishing Center is a leading organization in training people in the science and application of positive psychology. So I have multiple coaching certifications from the Flourishing Center and the International Coaching Federation. Yeah, I basically just live and breathe positive psychology, which is part of the reason why I'm here. I'm happy to share the information. So before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about no right or wrong answer, just genuinely curious. What is your definition of mindfulness? Oh, hi, Laura. Happy that you've joined us. Laura, if you're able, can you please go grab a quick snack or something that you can munch on, because we're going to be playing around with food a little bit later. That would be great. Okay. Anyone want to take a stab at what they think mindfulness is? It's just your definition. Again, there's no right or wrong. Just so we can get on the same page as kind of a consensus among the group today.
I was gonna say just like the practice of being able to focus, being aware of like how you're feeling, how like your body language is.
Michael said being aware. Yeah, for sure. Kiara, I think you were trying to say something, but I couldn't hear you. I don't know if that was just me.
Oh, are you able to hear me now? I'm sorry.
It seems like you're unmuted, but I still can't. Oh, it was me. Apologies. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
No, I was just saying the practice of like being aware and just like being able to focus on like how you're feeling, your body language is what you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Being aware and being able to focus on what's happening in real time, in your body, around your body. Absolutely. And that goes along nicely with Michael's share of being aware. Does anyone else want to contribute? Cool. Okay. So we can all agree that mindfulness is some form of being aware, being present, and the sensations and thoughts of what's happening within you and around you. Is that fair? Cool. Okay. So what about savoring? Is anyone familiar with this word?
I think I'm familiar with it, but not in a term where it's like linked in with like mindfulness and self-care. I think when I think of savoring, I think a lot more of like, oh, like I'm having a meal and I'm like really, really enjoying it and I'm like really taking my time with it. But that's how my mind thinks of savoring.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense.
This is sorry, this is like a weird example, but I agree with Mary and Kara, because it reminds me of this weird, but the movie Ratatouille, because they talk about food and the savoring and then all his senses are going off. That's what that made me think of.
Absolutely, Jaylee. You're so right. And it's funny you say the five senses, because that's part of what savoring is. It's actually grounding down into the present with the thing that you're savoring through your five senses, which I'll get into right now. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll review what savoring is in the context of like positive psychology and self-care. Because when we talked about savoring, I'm sure when you've heard the word, it is mostly around food, and so there's probably no surprise as to why I had you bring a snack, because it's very easy to savor food. For someone who's new to this concept, I like to start with food because it's something that you're relatively familiar with already, and it's probably one of the easiest things to actually savor. So by definition, savoring is being attentive and appreciative of the person, place, thing, or experience. So it's like you're in the present moment in the sense of you're totally with the thing. It's kind of like a mix between being mindful and being in a flow state. It's kind of like the interim of the two, because when you're being mindful, we agree that we're being present. We're aware of our physical sensations in our body and our mind and the things happening around us. And when you're in a flow state, you're in the zone, right? So it's like you're one with the book, you're one with the music, you're one with the sport you're playing, or whatever it is. Savoring is somewhat in between, in that like you're being mindful, you're grounding down with my tea, right? Like I can feel the sensation of the mug in my hand. I can feel the temperature of the warm ceramic mug against my hand. I can smell the tea, the lemon, and the citrus. Excuse me, I'm coming off of a little cold. And then of course, like I can feel the steam as I breathe it in, and then as I take a sip, I can feel all the flavors and the herbs of the tea, right? So that's an example of savoring. I used most of my senses in that to actually savor the experience of just not even tasting the tea, but just holding it close to my face. So it's getting really, really detailed and granular, super, super present with whatever it is that you're savoring. It could be a person, a place, a thing, or an experience. So it's mindful in the sense of, yes, you're being present, not so much in the sense of when you're being mindful, you're supposed to be like almost in a neutral state, like open, non-judgmental, all of that good stuff. When you're savoring, you're inherently layering on that level of positivity because savoring is actually looking for the good around you. That's part of the whole experience. Are there questions on that before I move on? Is that making more sense in the context of like what this is for self-care? So you can savor. I feel so strongly about savoring because there's such a magic to it. It makes the mundane extraordinary. It makes your everyday, otherwise automatic, boring routine suddenly filled with magic and pleasure and joy. If you can get good at savoring, you have a superpower. I promise. It's truly amazing. I like to think about savoring as slowing and stretching. When you're savoring something, you're slowing down that experience, right? Instead of just getting your cup of coffee in the dining hall and rushing to class, you are with the experience of making your cup of coffee, almost like it's a ritual, almost like it's something sacred, like, wow, this thing is going to keep me awake for my 8 a.m. psychology class today. Like, what a gift this is. I can enjoy this cup of coffee while I'm hearing my professor lecture. So instead of just going into the dining hall, flicking that tab, putting in your cream, watching it fill up, grabbing a cup and getting out to your next class, it's feeling the texture of the cardboard thing around the cup that like keeps it from burning your hand, right? It's being methodical about the number of pumps of cream you put in, right? Feeling the resistance of the pump as you push it down, putting the mug underneath the coffee thing, feeling the resistance of the coffee flip thing as you switch it on, watching the color of the coffee change as it fills to the top, watching the cream swirl and the steam come. It's that same experience, right? It's being so present with that experience that you're able to either marvel at the beauty of the color of the cup of coffee that you've just created, or give thanks for all the people in the dining hall that have allowed you to enjoy this cup of coffee today, whatever it is. But you're slowing down and you're stretching out that experience by being super present in all of those steps I described. You're making that an event. And that's a wonderful thing because it helps you to give thanks and be appreciative and attend to all of those otherwise mundane things that happen in your life. And you can do that through your 5 senses like I described. So you can savor the birds chirping outside of your window that actually might wake you up on a Saturday morning earlier than you'd like. Instead of getting angry about it, you can savor their sweet sound. You can savor the gorgeous view that you have of Ontario Lake. Savor food with taste, the smells of the dining hall or a home-cooked meal, or your roommate baking you cinnamon buns or whatever it is. One of my roommates used to love to bake. It was wonderful. And touching, luxuriating is another really great way to savor as well. But the fundamental here is slowing down and stretching out that experience with that positive intention, if you will. Okay. Why savoring works? Because you're layering on that positivity onto the moment, it boosts your affect, right? It increases your positive to negative ratio. It shifts your focus, just like gratitude does, if you're familiar with gratitude. It shifts your focus to what is beautiful and delicious and pleasurable and life-enhancing, life-giving, versus something that is life-draining. Instead of like having that cup of coffee or even like making your bed be an extra chore, an extra thing you have to do, making it a ritual, making meaning of it, celebrating that whole thing is a form of savoring, and it makes that whole process, it gives it meaning, it gives it, it makes it more life-giving versus just like, oh, I have to make my bed, which could be viewed as life-draining. It increases gratitude because savoring, a form of savoring is gratitude. And savoring is also so important, especially in this day and age with our like super consumerist culture, when everyone's always trying to get the next shiny, biggest, brightest thing. Savoring actually helps you like and appreciate what you have, which makes that social comparison, firstly, that is ever present with social media, makes that social comparison and that need for the next biggest, brightest thing plummet. You don't feel the need to get the latest trendy clothes or a tech device. You don't feel the need to compare yourself as much to others on social media because you're already appreciative of what you have and you can make magic out of your everyday life. Okay, the magic of savoring. So, like I've been saying, it makes the mundane extraordinary, and it can ground us in the present moment instantaneously. It gives us a boost of positive energy, so it literally energizes us, gives us a jolt of joy. It allows us to see the good in life, which after we do this over and over again, you can literally rewire your brain to have savoring and seeing the good be more of a habit and be more of a natural thing, so you don't have to work as hard to do it. And it helps us make meaning in our daily lives. I'll pause here for questions or comments. Have I sold you guys on savoring yet? Cool. Okay. I'm gonna breeze past that for a minute. For the sake of today, I want to talk about savoring in the present moment, grounding down to the present. So there's 4 different ways to savor. And the thing in parentheses is the mechanism or mostly the emotion that type of savoring produces or controls. So there's a basking here in this orange yellow circle. Basking in something creates a sense of pride. So I can bask in the fact that Mary asked me to give a presentation on savoring today because I've worked very hard. I have learned a lot. I have years of experience and failures doing things like this to the point where I'm comfortable now and enjoy, truly love doing this sort of stuff. So I can be proud of myself for that and the years culminating up to this moment. I can give thanks to Mary and for my experience at Oswego, and I could go on and on. Gratitude is one of my top strengths. I can give thanks very easily. So giving thanks is actually a way to savor something. Luxuriating regulates physical pleasure. So I'm not talking about sex, though you can savor sex too. I'm talking about feeling the sun on your skin or walking around barefoot and feeling the carpet in between your toes or the grass in between your toes, or even feeling the steam of your tea or your coffee against your skin. All of those things can increase your physical pleasure. And marveling. So just being in awe of something. You can savor the outdoors and Mother Nature and being in spaces that make us feel small, create a sense of awe around us. But you can also create awe by taking something as mundane as a pen and thinking about all of the hands and the processes that had to happen in order for you to be holding this pen in your hand, right? That's actually a pretty amazing thing when you think about all of the parts and the things that had to happen. That's another way to savor. So there's 4 different ways to savor. And I'm going to have us savor now. Are there questions on the types of savoring? Okay. So let's see, with the 10-ish minutes we have left, I'm going to have us savor the snack that we hopefully all have. And if you don't have a snack, that's totally fine. You can pick up whatever mundane object you have nearby and savor that. You're just offering yourself a challenge, which is not a bad thing at all. So I'm going to have us do 2 things with our food. The first thing I'm going to have us do is take 3 bites of our thing. And with each bite, you're going to chew 20 times before you swallow. 20. Okay? Yeah. We'll talk about it after. So 3 bites, 20 chews. It should be about 1.5 minutes total. And then when you're done, type done in the chat box, okay? I'm going to throw on some music and we can get to doing this. I'm also going to mute myself out so you don't hear me munching on my apple. Is everyone clear? Cool. Okay. Okay, it seems like some people are wrapping up. How was that?
It made me realize how quickly I eat.
Mhm. Say
I-
more.
I was on like chew number like 8 or 10. I was like, am I done yet? I was like, why am I not swallowing this? It was just like such a like a weird reaction in my brain of like, why am I still at this stage?
Did you feel something inside you being like, okay, you're done, let's go, hurry up, on to the next bite?
It was almost like I was actually like trying to swallow and I was like, no, we're still chewing, but like my body was like trying to like go into like that next process. It was really odd.
Interesting. Thanks, Mary. Does anyone else want to share how that went for them?
Well, I had the gummies, like I said, and I guess
Mhm.
like, usually when I eat them, I just eat them and I don't really process it. But then I could actually like feel how much it was like in my teeth, kind of like as I like was chewing, and I was like, oh, this is kind of weird.
Interesting. Thanks, Julie. Does anyone else want to share how that went? Okay. Did anyone notice the texture of their food after they had chewed for 20 times? What was the texture?
So I had an almond joy. So it was a bunch of coconut. And it just got like, I could like feel the texture more. So like texture has like a natural like thing to it, but it's like, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it, but it just, I felt more like in tune with the fact that it had its own texture versus it just being like a flavor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so I bring this up for a couple of reasons. One, you're supposed to chew about 20 times before you swallow because you're supposed to swallow your food in a semi-liquid state. It's optimal for digestion for a lot of different reasons. It's better for your belly. And it's just like easier on your system, generally speaking. And it also makes all the nutrients in your food more bioavailable, meaning that your body's going to absorb them better if they're in a semi-liquid state. So, fun fact, as self-care comes in a lot of forms. And I believe chewing your food thoroughly is one of them because it's actually doing a lot of good for the body that keeps you going each and every day. So that's literal food for thought. And I also had to do this just to physically slow down, like Mary was saying. Like we are constantly in this world where we're being rushed and hurried along, and most of us, I mean, I shouldn't speak for you, but I usually eat in front of my computer, and I hate to admit that, but usually my lunch is a combination of me doing some sort of work and scarfing down my meal. And it's just a way, savoring your meal is a way to stop and ground. And a form of savoring is actually chewing, because if you're counting your chews, that's one way to stay mindful, like you're counting breath, right? But also you can more easily notice the textures changing and the flavors mixing and changing and things like that. So thank you for indulging me in that. That is one thing that you can do to savor your food. I had my boss is very, very, very much into vitality, which is essentially like a healthy body and mind, more or less. Just like including the body into the conversation when talking about well-being. And she chewed each bite of her meal 20 times before swallowing for a whole day. And she said that she woke up the next day and her jaw was sore. So it's also like a free facelift, right? Because like the muscles in your jaw are actually getting worked out, which will lift them and make them firmer. Just another weird fun fact. But a way to savor is chewing your food a lot of times so you can actually be in that process. And even a bonus that I didn't mention, if you close your eyes and isolate one of your senses, you're going to be able to be even more in tune with the changing flavors and textures. And we don't really have time for the other activity, which is totally fine. I'm going to share my screen one more time because I have a couple of slides left. Okay, so we just played around with savoring a little bit, just like dipping our feet wet into this. But remember that there's 1,000,001 ways to savor. Even in these 4 categories, there's 1,000,001 ways to savor, and you can savor anything, like anything. I could savor the color of my journal, because it reminds me of the ever clear blue sky that is constantly around me in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it's gorgeous. And this is like, I could just go on and on. You can, once it becomes more of a practice, it becomes much more natural and integrated into your life. So these are some ways to practice savoring. You can create rituals around the whole idea. For example, blessings before eating, giving gratitude before meals is a really good way to practice savoring what you're about to do, right? It's like that almost anticipatory, like setting the stage of, okay, I'm going to eat this meal now, or I'm going to brush my teeth, or get dressed for the day. You can make anything a ritual by adding a little bit of intentionality and meaning into the thing. You can trick others into savoring with you by having them tell you details about something positive that happened to them. Really simple things like, tell me more, say more. What was the best part about that? What was most exciting for you? Asking those open-ended questions will get the person to keep talking. And so you're helping them savor the experience, and that actually creates a stronger bond between you and the person too. You can set primers to remind you to savor. There's a lot of research in the realm of goal setting and habit change of the power of primers. So a primer could be a post-it note on your mirror or on your pillow before you go to bed. It could be your phone background or your computer background, anything that you would see in your day-to-day to remind you to do the thing. I mentioned isolating your senses, like closing your eyes. So eating while closing your eyes is a really good way to tune into those tastes, like I mentioned. Yeah, so you can play around with isolating your senses. I think that one's particularly fun. And you can create a positive portfolio for you to reminisce on past experiences. This is an example of one of mine. I won't go into the details of all of this, but these are all just very visceral and joyful memories that I have. A lot of them are regulating awe because I like to be outside. But yeah. This is just another fun thing that you can do. I had this as my computer background for a while as a way to remind me to savor. Okay, so wrapping up here, friendly reminders, savoring makes the mundane extraordinary. It's a really powerful and simple tool to increase your positivity. It wraps into self-care in the sense of, if you're being intentional about the things that you're doing in your day-to-day anyway. So the really cool thing about savoring is that I'm not adding anything to your to-do list, right? Like doing a gratitude practice or meditating or I don't know, taking a walk or going, like taking a bubble bath, like those other things that you might do for self-care. I get a lot of resistance and when working with people in higher ed, staff in higher ed about self-care, because their whole argument is, I don't have the time or energy to do the things on my to-do list. Like there's no way in God's green earth that I'm actually going to stick another thing on my to-do list, which is a fair argument. Sure, we can talk about that another day, but savoring is extra magical because I'm not adding anything onto your to-do list. I'm just making those things in your to-do list that much more juicy and pleasurable and fun, right? So it's a really good way to increase that positivity in your ordinary everyday life. And when it becomes a practice, you're more easily able to look for the good in life, and you're actually rewiring your brain so you're more easily to give thanks and have that boost of positive emotion in your day-to-day life. I think that is all I have. Oh, one really quick note too. Everything in positive psychology, including savoring, including mindfulness, it's all a practice, right? And it's called a practice for a reason. And so I really encourage you to get curious about this and play around with it and know that practice makes better. We're not striving for perfection. There is no perfect way to meditate, perfect way to savor. It's all in accordance with what feels right to you and what makes sense to you. So that's just another friendly reminder going forward. And that is really all that I have. I am happy to keep the conversation going if there are comments or questions, and if you'd like more information or want to check out my other offerings, you can do that as well. And I realize I'm over time. I apologize for that, but I will stay on for a couple more minutes if there are comments or questions.
Yeah, thank you. Honestly, oh, I'm sorry, Kiara, you can go.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say really quick. It's not more so a question, but I guess just like from what I've heard from this workshop and like an observation that I had this morning. So like for an example, like this what we talked about today made me think about this. So this morning I woke up freezing and then I ended up going to like take like I know it sounds weird, but I went to go take like a really hot shower, and like while I was there in the shower, like I enjoyed the like I guess you could say like the hot water going down on my skin, and I was just appreciating that moment and like being very present because I'm like I'm about to go outside and it's about to be freezing. So that's just what today made me think about. So I just wanted to share that.
That's a fantastic example of savoring. That's a beautiful example. And I actually did the same thing this morning, if I'm being honest, except the opposite. I woke up warm, I took a cool shower, and it felt really good. But it's just little things like that, right? Just being intentional about the good thing that's happening around you. It makes you feel better. It's like free candy for your mind. It's just truly amazing. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you coming.
Yes, well, thank you, Mary Kate, for such an insightful presentation. Honestly, this was great. And I think savoring is such an important thing to especially think about now because times are so trying with the pandemic and everything that it's really important to focus on the good of everything. So this is honestly great to just take moments out of our day and realize and just be thankful for what we have.